Hey, so glad you're here. JP and I were just talking. We're going to put up a 5-day challenge because, we realize people get stuck. We ourselves get stuck all the time. We have ideas that we want to put into action. And so we thought to help ourselves out, but also to help you out, we're going to do a 5-day challenge. So let's dive right in.
Essentially, 5-day challenges are a perfect way to get stuff done. And we've been talking about how do we help people out and help ourselves out with this kind of like get stuff done challenges. And the thought with that was that, with everybody that's just trying to do this journey of trying to get independent and trying to build up their business or trying to, step up and start their own side gig, side hustle, or just step into the entrepreneurial journey or whatever. Um, they just everyone struggles with the same thing, and the pattern always seems to go the same way, where you start off and you have this bright idea and you know that it's possible. You get this spark of inspiration, you get a jolt, your muse visits you, whatever it is, and you sit there with this bright idea and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And as soon as you make that decision, you immediately get into this because it's like, okay, cool, I'm going for it. Now what?
Yeah,
What do I do? Like there's a chasm between the spark of inspiration and everything else. And you're
right.
sitting there and now it starts to bubble up, right? You're wondering like, what is it gonna take? But in most cases, you have at least a vision of what that end picture would look like. And you know what that target, that finish line is gonna look like. But the thing is, those question marks are still there in your head and they start to bubble back up again. So now it's like, okay, what are my first steps going to be? You start getting the sad bear face here. Where are you going to find the time? What are you going to say? Especially like if you're thinking about, if you're building an app or if you're presenting somebody or pitching somebody, if you're trying to find a client and consult them, like how are you going to close them? Like all these questions start to pop up. But, more questions lead to even more questions. What are you going to need to build? How are you going to afford it? What are your steps to getting started? Do you need designers? Do you need coders? Do you need to hire writers? I mean, by the end of it, you're just big, sad face and you don't even know what to do. But you know what? That's where we come in because you know what? Ghost Founder, the whole idea of Ghost Founder was started because we think that everything around taking your business online, being able to, get your ideas and spread your ideas using technology, building apps and all those things, it's been way overcomplicated. And we want to simplify that. And we want to simplify that while we share our own journey along with you. But today specifically, we wanted to kind of like take this thing, this whole idea of, what, needing to be online, needing to have a website, needing to have your digital business card, and really take this idea where everybody knows they need to do it and everybody understands that they need to do it, but very few people actually know how to execute it and make it happen in a real way. So we're going to step into that. And the first challenge we're going to do is going to be the Live in 5 challenge, where we're going to take you in 5 days from concept to having your entire website launched. And we're going to help you like minimize it so that it's really about what is the least work that you have to do to get your best foot forward in 5 days. And that's what this challenge is about. So welcome.
Yeah, welcome. So, my name is Lovis, and I'm hanging out in Germany.
And I'm JP and I'm hanging out in Texas
Yeah,
and
and
we're Ghost Founder.
we're Ghost Founder, and we're super happy that you're here, and we're excited to get this Live in 5 challenge started with you. Here we have an overview of kind of how we think this should break down. So the goal is to put up a website, right? That's the overarching goal of Live in 5. And then on day one, we're gonna, so we always operate on the premise, let's think about this stuff a little bit, maybe a little bit longer than most people would. because we know that at the end of the race, you'll have a better result. You have a better chance of actually winning the race if you take the time in the beginning and think about it a little bit. So day one, we start with figuring out what is actually your goal and your messaging for your page that you want to throw up. So we're going to help you get clear on what your goal is, and then we'll figure out a way to how are you going to explain this to others in a simple way so that they'll get it. Do you want to take day two?
Sure, but I mean, before even like diving into that a little bit, like a quick, just like a brief story of something. So I used to, struggle a lot with the idea of how to get online and be on social media, just because, I'm probably introverted. I live better in my own head than outside. And so I'd have these ideas where, it would end up being like a big book of an idea, but I'm like, okay, how do I tweet that? Or I'd have a very succinct thought, but I'd be thinking like, how do I turn that into a blog post? And the worst one yet, which is, if you're not just doing quotes or something, it's like, how do you turn that into a picture and represent that as a picture? And the thing is, as I thought about this for a long time and kept thinking about it, I realized that every idea, like every good idea that is worth sharing, can always be scaled up or scaled down. And it's just a matter of extending or expanding on it. So you can take a tweet and expand it into a status post, turn that into a quote and expand that into a blog. And you can even expand that into a book. And so that's the idea of like honing down your message is, getting it down to the point where if you know what that tweet could be or what that book could be, then everything that you say in between that will be consistent. And having that ahead of time before you start to put things out will make it so that when you show up in front of other people and you start to present your stuff, it'll really help to make sure that there's a consistent thread across how you're showing up. Because obviously this is the Live in 5 with your website challenge, but you probably have your social media accounts already. You might have your own Facebook profile already, and you're already saying things there. So making sure that when people see you on social media and they end up on your website is a representation of you. So it's like, it's we were talking about McDonald's earlier, right? It's like if you show up at a McDonald's drive-through, you will hear, "Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order?" I think that's how it goes. Or "Welcome to Wendy's. May I take your order?" Well, guess what? When someone shows up at your website, you want that message to be just as consistent, because that drive-through cashier that's sitting there in that box on the other end of the microphone, your website needs to be that for you, so that when someone shows up on your website, it's like, "Hey, welcome to, Lovis's spectacular, wonderful, amazing business idea. How may I be of service?" Or whatever it is your thing is going to say. That was a terrible off the cuff thing, but figuring out your messaging, because that's what it is. It's your website is it's not a brochure. It's a salesperson that lives 24/7, and you want that salesperson to say exactly what message you need to get out there consistently all the time. So that day one, we get clear on what your goal is. What does your salesperson need to be out there selling for you? What does your rep need to be out there pitching for you? What do they need to explain to others? And we nail that down so that everything that builds on top of that is built from there, right? What's going to be the personality of your salesperson? Does he need a suit? Does he need a t-shirt? Does he need one of those polo shirts with like the logo on the front? Well, that's when we start talking about how you design your site, right? Are they going to speak more formal? Are they going to be more casual and playful? Well, that's when we structure our content, right? Are they going to be, someone with a very easy name like Jim or Bob? Or are they going to be someone with a complicated name like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Well, guess what? That's where your domain name is going to be, right? Are they going to live out in the boondocks, or are they going to live like right in your neighborhood? Well, that's your hosting, and so on. And so this is what this structure is. And I like this idea of the salesperson. I think we'll keep going back to that. But let's talk about day 2. Now that we have a salesperson in place and they're saying the right thing, we're going to structure your site and the content. So structuring your site is, how do you arrange it so that it conveys the right message? Again, this is your salesperson's pitch, right? How do they make that presentation? Do they use slide decks? Are they an off-the-cuff speaker? Like, how you organize that presentation now matters, and that pitch, that pieces of the content comes together on day 2, and we help you put that together so that you have everything in place before we start getting into the technical stuff, which comes on day 3.
On day 3, we're gonna actually go and show you how to buy a domain. Like, where are you gonna find that? What's a good what is a good domain name? What makes sense? We'll show you exactly how to go into that and where to set that up. We have a couple of examples, and then we'll also discuss the hosting. So that's what JP said before. Where's your shop going to live? Basically, which server, whose computer is it going to be on, right? That's your hosting solution. So there's a couple that they're all not that different from each other, but there's like different options, different prices, different categories, and we'll break all that down and figure out what's the best solution for you.
Nice. And on day 4, so a lot of the things that people get caught up worried about is, when they're building their website, it's like, well, I don't know HTML. Well, the technology has come along so far that you really don't have to if you have the right system in place. So a CMS is a content management system. And basically what it does is it makes it so simple that if you can write an email, you can update your own content. And with all this thing that we're doing with content and structure, your content is going to be the key and at the heart of your site that we launch in this 5 days. And so we're going to help you put a system in place so that updating the content to your site, changing the words that your salesperson is saying, adapting it in real time is in your control, as long as you know enough about computers to be able to send an email. So that's what we're going to do on day 4.
Yeah, and then on day 5, so then looking back, so now your page is up. You have your salesperson, they're dressed the right way, and they have at least enough of an idea of which message they're going to get started with. They're going to have a nice address on the internet. Live in a good neighborhood, hopefully. But so now we have to figure out how we get people in the door of your new shop, of your new business, and so that's called traffic, right? How do we get traffic to your page? Is it a billboard? We don't want it to be a billboard in the desert. We want it to be a billboard on the side of a highway that a lot of people drive on. And there's a couple of strategies on how to, be found more easily. And we're also going to discuss the role that paid advertisement plays, and call out some of these differences to you and give you some ideas of how the first couple of people are going to find your page, basically.
And that's pretty much the whole thing. So in the next 5 days, the way this is going to be structured is every day we're going to send you one lesson that breaks down with specific actions that you can take. We'll outline the strategy for you. We'll outline the specific actions that you need to take. And we'll also do a walkthrough showing you how we go through doing that process ourselves. So every day, short, concise lessons, one specific outcome, which is coming up with your message or coming up with your site structure, buying your domain, hosting, and everything else. And we take you through that every single day. So by day 1, your messaging will be done. By day 2, your structure will be done. And what happens is you get an email, you get the instructions, you follow through, get your message. If you need to, you can watch us do it because we walk you through us also doing the exact same exercise as well. And then by the end of it, you will have a site that's there with specific tactics and strategies on how you can get some traffic to that site. So that's the idea, is live in 5. So in 5 days, you can push a button and go live with your site. And we're going to make it so that it's simply like there's no overcomplicating this. It's going to be adjusted so that anybody can, if you can send an email, you can do this. And the specific tactics and strategies and frameworks and little methods that we're going to introduce at each point will make it so that it becomes easier. So in the messaging section, there are templates that we can give you where if you structure it like A, B, and C, you get a message that will resonate. In the content and structure section, we'll give you options where, songwriters have this thing called whatever. There's a song structure that everyone uses that's like intro, verse, hook, bridge, verse, hook, whatever. Most songs follow a very familiar pattern. So we'll show you some of those patterns as it relates to websites, and so that your website can really sing.
There you
So
go.
that's
So for the time commitment, we're gonna try to keep ourselves as short as possible, while still giving you all the answers. So probably 15-20 minute lesson every day with going over the basics, and then the rest of it is you implementing it. So I want to say with less than an hour a day, you can find the time to do this challenge.
and
And
you
then
will
as
have
far
your.
as, huh?
I said, yeah, you will have your site done in 5 days.
Exactly. And then as far as affordability goes, the only thing really that costs money here on this list is the buying the domain and the hosting. And so I think with some of the recommendations we'll give you, you'll be able to set this up and have your hosting and your domain paid for about $50 for the whole year. So that, of course that's money, but it's not nearly as much as you might think.
Yeah. And I think that with all of those things in place, you should be able to be live in 5 days.
There you go.
All right.